Now, one person we did hear from today for the first time, Karen Reed herself, doubling down, of course, saying she did not do this. She wants to know who did.
Said it feels we're the only ones fighting for the truth of what happened to John O'Keefe. And me and my family and my attorneys and my team have marshaled every resource to get to the truth. It just feels like no one else wants it.
Karen, just to be clear, you didn't do it.
We know who did it, Steve. We know. And we know who spearheaded this cover-up. You all know.
Yes, we do.
And no, she didn't do it. No, she didn't do it. This is an innocent woman. She didn't do it.
I tried to save his life.
Yeah.
I tried to save his life at 6 in the morning. I was covered in the only one trying to save his life.
Why'd you admit to it?
She didn't admit to it. She didn't admit to anything close to that. Nothing close to that. And you should know that.
That was like 3 or 4 times she admitted to it.
No, she didn't.
That's not true.
She asked a question. She asked a question, which is very different. She didn't admit to anything.
You are listening to the Roberta Glass True Crime Report, putting the true back in true crime. From New York City, Roberta Glass is now on the record.
All right. How is everybody? What a hearing it was for Karen Reed today. Absolutely brutal. So this is her last hearing before her trial starts on Monday, and very bad for the defense. Have you ever heard the saying, more tears are shed over answered prayers than unanswered ones? Well, certainly it's the case in this one, or it's going to be the case. They got their wish. They're going to get the smaller courtroom. That means that pretty much anyone who's not press or family is going to be exiled. Not allowed in. There's no room in the inn for the Pink Brigade. Very bad for Karen Reed. I mean, from the beginning, her strategy was to get so much public pressure, get so much misinformation out in the press that it would never go to court. And if it did go to court, that she would poison the jury pool. Now it looks like they've gone to great lengths, 20 jurors, to make sure that she has a jury that's just going to look at the evidence with an open mind. It doesn't have any unmoving set opinions, really unmovable bias in one way or the other. And without the look, so it's really a campaign to make it, so her second plan was to poison the jury pool. That failed. And now her third plan is really to make it look like there's so much public support, and that would have been really helpful to have in the courtroom. It's still going to be outside the courtroom, 200 feet away, but the jurors, unfortunately, are going to hear them screaming. I think it should have been a little bit further away if I were the judge, but okay. This is apparently a very defense-friendly judge. It didn't look like it today. And then the third thing was to get the public so riled up with these filings and these things said in court, and now it's all being exposed to be totally untrue. So to give an example, so Karen Reed got an FBI investigation into some kind of corruption in her case. Nothing came out of it, but they leaked the parts that maybe made it look like something went on to her PR talking, PR talkers in the form of Turtle Boy, etc. That really didn't work when it came up with the FBI evidence, when we found out in court that their FBI expert actually agreed with everything except having to do with the back of John O'Keefe's head, which the prosecution wasn't even arguing. Then their second tactic was to make it look like maybe someone else did it. Brian Higgins, no dog DNA found. That was all a big lie, the dog thing. Now it's that Brian Higgins' phone was absolutely not destroyed. And the only way that that can come in is in cross. So to go over it, but before I do, I just want to thank Dean Walker. Thanks so much for the super sticker, Dean. Nice to see you here. I want to go over some of the points made in court. So John O'Keefe's photo will be allowed in. The Commonwealth's motion to allow the victims, meaning John's injuries, are allowed to come in. Also coming in, and this is the most damning, Reed's own statements. Both parties agree not to bring up Turtle Boy, but if a witness, so say a witness comes in and says, I've been so harassed for the past couple years, year or so on the stand, it's coming in. And I find it almost completely unlikely that a witness won't mention it. All you have to do is ask, well, are you nervous? Well, yeah, I'm nervous. Well, why are you nervous? Well, it's been a tough year with this case, right? Just one witness has to do it, and it's all coming in. Very bad for Karen Reed. The other technique, which is what we saw today, was to wear such an inappropriate outfit that everybody will be talking about your outfit and nobody will be talking about, this is like her Julia Roberts Pretty Woman look with the thigh-high boots. Nobody will be talking about what a bad day you had in court. So many, many, many more things were mentioned. Proctor and the AI investigation that Karen Reed spearheaded into the officer investigating this case. We're going to have to wait, maybe come in, maybe, but it can't be brought in an opening. And Yannetti stood up, meaning Karen Reed's lawyer, and said, well, it's not in my opening, as if he wrote the opening before this motions hearing. Give me a break, David Yannetti. You don't have that opening written. You would be a fool to write an opening that you would have to rewrite. Who knows what they're going to say in opening? If I had to guess, it's going to be a lot of pointing fingers at the police, pointing fingers at some kind of framed theme, some kind of conspiracy theme, OJ 2.0. And before I get back to the rest of the hearing, just want to share. Roving Millennial did a great video. I know I've been talking about it on this channel on Melanie Little's incredibly bad, or bad for her side, I thought, episode where she had Joseph Scott Morgan on. It was a forensic expert, and she tried to get him to really join in on the conspiracy. Here is Wolfgang Bodie, Roving Millennials. Excellent video on Melanie Little's disastrous episode. Let's take a watch.
Two things I really can't stand are liars and liars that get mad when you call them out for being a liar. In the beginning, I, like a lot of people, giving Melanie Little the benefit of the doubt.
I'm a conspiracy theorist.
We all just thought she might not be the brightest crayon in the box. We now see that there's an extreme lack of integrity here. She had a forensic pathologist on her show the other night, and he was giving his assessment of autopsy photos. Oh, in all my years, I never seen anything that looks like this. Bro, she's not even a criminal attorney. All your years in civil court? That's like pretending to be a business consultant when you're a cashier at Walmart. And this expert was trying so hard to give his opinion without making you look dumb.
Looks like a paw print bruise to me. I mean, tell me if I'm crazy.
No, it's not.
There would be evidence of that on his clothing. There would be grease. There would be oil. There would be remnants from the car. There would be debris.
Selective amnesia. You know the taillight fragments were found in his shirt. She is lying. She is pretending to be a criminal attorney with experience in homicides and pushing a narrative to deceive you.
Okay, so I thought that was excellent little video. Very effective there. So back to the hearing. No mention of prior bad acts of any of the witnesses. And they are taking the juries, this is OJ again, taking the juries to 34 Fairview Road, home of the Alberts. But Karen Reed is not going to be present. All of Karen Reed's statements to the media are coming in. Her Nightline, her Gretchen Voss interview, all coming in. Then the prosecution, and this is going to be decided later, has problems with the accident reconstruction expert for the defense, saying that they're not trained in accident reconstruction. They don't have the background for it. And the defense gave no addresses. So their witness list wasn't complete with name and addresses. And every time this happens in court, let me see if I can show you some of the video without showing you the actual sound. They always look to Elizabeth Little on the defense team, who seems to be doing the heavy lifting in this case. Like, we told you to get all the addresses, right? We told them to give you over. She seems absolutely overwhelmed. While Alan Jackson and David Yannetti, I don't know what they've been up to. She argues the really difficult arguments. Hold on one second. And meaning the arguments that have to cite case law, that are very technical. And David Yannetti and Alan Jackson are left to kind of finesse the court with the more surfacey arguments. But she looks absolutely, Elizabeth Little, overwhelmed, over it, ready to quit, hanging on by a thread. Every time I look at her, all I can think is how many therapist appointments she's having being on this case. And the judge was just like really tired of the defense not being prepared once again. John O'Keefe's out of court statements coming in. Basically, almost everything that the prosecution wants, Commonwealth wants, it's coming in. Also, most damningly, is the tape in the police station where she says, Colin and Brian Albert did this, and John O'Keefe was pulverized. Terrible. Coming in, but without the video. Like, you really needed the video of the TV screen. Terrible, terrible, terrible for Karen Reed. Now, I was in this, watching this on Yellow Cottage Tales with Kevin, and he didn't feel like it was, I don't think he felt like it was quite the disaster I did for the defense, but most of the people in the chat felt like it was a disaster. We were saying, how is the Karen Reed supporters going to spin this? And they rightfully predicted it. I did not predict it correctly, that the judge now, this very defense-friendly judge, is so biased. It's all the judge's fault. That there's been they should be so angry at the defense for misleading them. No dog DNA, no phone destroyed. Karen Reed's own statements alone should make you raise an eyebrow. And of course, the Aruba incidents. Also, John O'Keefe's own children can testify, meaning his sister's children, his nieces and nephews that he fostered, raised. They can testify, and after they testify, they can sit in the courtroom. But it's going to be very, very small. So, terrible day for the defense. I think what they're really getting ready for, if this is a fair jury, it's a fool's game predicting which way a jury will go. Maybe the protesters and the trial innocence fraud campaign, that's what I'd call it, for Karen Read, will be enough. But it certainly doesn't look like it when you watch these hearings for her to get acquitted. I don't know. It looks like they're counting on some kind of campaign post-conviction. It was terrible for the defense today. Not anything. I mean, you know, if any of those things, if they had gotten out if they had gotten out the police statement, but they're not allowed to say she was arrested at the time. But once they play that, that's going to be very bad. You know, people have been saying, Joseph Scott Morgan says, you pay attention to all the forensics in this case, and especially the autopsy. That's going to be very important. Also, they can mention they can mention in arguments that it was undetermined. But once they get the examiner up there on the stand, I don't think that's going to matter much, honestly. So pretty bad day for, like I said, for the defense. Does anyone have any questions? Long hearing. P. Rabbit's asking, does Karen think this is a daytime soap or reality TV show? Her stage posing, outfits, hair, eyelash fluttering, and demeanor are so off. Yeah, she doesn't read the room very well. I think it was Court TV was shocked by her outfit. Certainly doesn't show a lot of respect for the court. She's often not stood for the judge. She's chewed gum in court. She doesn't seem to. If you have no respect for the legal system, that's how you're going to treat it. So all those things will become apparent in the way that you approach it. If you're already putting out the idea that it shouldn't be respected and it's all rigged against you. But I slowly see this campaign falling apart. And I've been really disappointed by the silence of my colleagues who know what this is, who've seen the abuse of the victim's parents, and who are saying nothing. Regardless of how you feel about Karen Read, every one of these campaigns sets a precedent, and parts of them are always repeated. And if this is successful, we can look forward. And this is not the first time. West Memphis 3, Manda Knox case comes to mind, where the victims' families have been really abused. This will be repeated. And because Turtle Boy, etc., and the whole gang have been so vicious and feral, that's another technique, is to really scare everyone into silence. But to see the people not brave enough to call this what it is has been incredibly disappointing. And I'm getting comments that because I'm not supporting Karen Read, I'm turning off so many of my viewers. I can only call it like I see it. I can't pretend to be somebody else and chase views. I really couldn't live with myself if I just chased views and went for my opinion, changed my opinion to the amount of views I think I'm going to get. And I think a lot of this is manufactured. And I think when a lot of people find out that they've been lied to, I think it's going to dwindle. I think this is going to be a very interesting trial. Top Cat, do you agree the big argument in Aruba coming in is very bad for KR? Yes. All of the sort of tension between John O'Keefe and Karen Read prove that Karen Read was the only person on planet Earth at that time, or in that vicinity, let's say, who had a real issue with John O'Keefe. Even Karen Read's calling him the patron saint, right, of his area. So the only person who has issue, I think the jurors are going to pick up on that. What I'm interested in is how the defense is going to spin it. And kudos to the defense for getting the jurors. It looks like this jury room has much more comfortable chairs for the jury. But besides that, I think they were really making an issue, like I was talking with Grant Smith Ellis, and he was like, this is an issue for appeal, this small courtroom. I don't think they really wanted it moved. And if they were smarter, they would have asked for TV screens or something, some sort of, I don't know what you call it, modification of the courtroom instead of moving it. And the judge is like, okay, let's move to the tiny courtroom where none of the Karen Read supporters, there's about 25 of them in court today, all wearing pink in the back. I'm not talking about her family, of course. So let's just take a look and take a quick break. Just a short show for today. Quick break and get back. We're going to look at Court TV's summation for today. Don't go anywhere. I'll be right back. If you are enjoying this episode of my True Crime Report, please hit the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and share this episode. Get access to exclusive podcasts and other bonus content by becoming a patron today. If you have a question or comment for me, shoot me a super chat and I'll do my best to answer it and read it on air. Thanks so much. Now back to the show. All right, so let's look at Court TV, their
a very
coverage.
small courtroom now at your request, so we don't need monitors on the tables. I don't have the time to physically go see how this all looks. Ms. Gilman's here. Perhaps she can speak with your audio-visual person, and then you can all make a presentation to me. But again, this, months ago would have been much better.
Well, I understand the court's concern. This is extremely modest, and it's not going to it's not.
Right, they want some sort of TV screens and extra TV screens and stuff in there. And Kevin was saying on Yellow Cottage shows, that sounds very reasonable. It does sound very reasonable. The problem with those audio video things is something always goes wrong with them. It's usually a nightmare. Now, I was talking about anything other than just showing something on a screen. When you have something a little bit more complicated and you want to do it at the last minute, things tend to go wrong. So they tend to be a headache, and this judge knows it.
It's going to take a whole lot of presentation. If the court doesn't want to monitor, the court says, I don't want to monitor.
I don't know if I want monitors on those tables so close to the jury.
That's fine. Then.
All right, the breaking news banner comes out because you heard it, the judge there saying they're going to move the Karen Read trial to a smaller courtroom because of this defense request saying that the sight lines for jurors in this courtroom that they've been using for over 100 years won't be sufficient for Karen Read. So that's what they're going to do. They're going to move it to a smaller courtroom, add some logistical issues. Part of what was a very long and very important motion hearing this morning. This is sort of the last time for all the parties to get the rules of the road straight before opening statements on Monday. With a front row seat during the hearing, Court TV crime and justice correspondent Matt Johnson. He's outside the courthouse now. Let's start with that, what we just heard. Looks like there's going to be a little move to a smaller courtroom. What does that mean?
Right, Ted, this was a big bombshell just outside of Boston on the eve of this trial kicking off on Monday with those opening statements. So basically, there was a lot of chatter in the gallery, everyone looking at each other when the judge, who wasn't addressing the...
By the way, Karen Reed looked incredibly nervous, unhappy during most of this hearing. It was not the smiley, winky Karen Reed that we've seen in the past at these hearings.
Matter before the court, that motion from the defense of the jury view and some jury members who may not be able to see the face of the witness, the defense saying that that was a violation of amendment rights of the defendant, Karen Reed, 6th and 14th Amendment for her right to face-to-face confrontation during questioning. So today, the judge said that because there is not a lot of room for IT equipment, she let it slip out that they don't have the room in where this court is going to be trying the case, which is in a much smaller courtroom, which is what the Commonwealth suggested, moving to this courtroom, Ted, because of the jury question that the defense was claiming. This is a big deal because this only means that the families of John O'Keefe and Karen Reed and a few members of the media will be allowed to be in there, no members of the public.
No members of the public, no members of the Free Karen Reed Army. One would wonder what the defense would rather, you know, a gallery full of people that seem to support a defendant, which we all know by sitting through trials is very important because juries, they know everyone in that courtroom by the end of a long trial. But there you go. They're going to be in the smaller courtroom. They won't have that army of
So hard to see her inappropriate thigh-high boots under their banner there. But it's a good way to get people talking about something else when your defense is crumbling. Get them to talk about your outfit, right? We're all talking about it.
Supporters with them. Let's talk about the motions as well today. Several things were discussed. What stood out to you on, as you said, the eve of trial?
Yeah, you know, we still don't have an answer on some of the major motions, whether or not her blood alcohol level will be presented to the jury. There's a decision still pending on that, and whether or not the district attorney of Norfolk County can be called as a defense witness. That's going to be decided at a later time as well. But one of the major issues and motions that was decided on today that stood out to us and our team was about the statements made by the defendant, Karen Reed, outside of court. Not only
You want to see the boots again? You want to see? Hold on one second. Let me pull them up one more time since she wants us all to talk about them. They're literally the thigh-high boots. They go, I mean, maybe you could call them above the knee, but I would call them thigh-high boots. They go about 2 or 3 inches above her knee. That's a thigh-high boot for me. I don't know. I mean, we're playing semantics here with it.
To the media, which will be played in part, but also to the state trooper after the grand jury indictment when she was rearrested and they added the second-degree murder charge. Well, she made a statement when she was on body camera, and that's coming in. Let's play the statement, and then let's play what the judge said about it.
So, initially, your arrest.
So this is the statement that's coming in. Very bad again. I feel like I'm repeating myself. Very bad for Karen Reed. This is not a statement you want coming in. But if they're going to try to, if I guess the defense is going to try to spin this and make up some kind of fantasy. She was asked to imagine what could have happened. Take a page from the Amanda Knox defense. I mean, that's what I could imagine. But everything but the visual. If I were the prosecution, I would be popping this champagne tonight. I mean, who needs the picture of the screen here? What does that do? Nothing. And they can't say that she was arrested at the time. Okay. Doesn't matter. It's the statement itself. Then you have her statement to Nightline. Then you have all her media statements that are contradictory. Then you have her statements to all the witnesses that are going to testify in this. So if I had to guess, I would guess that, yes, it's going to be important how John O'Keefe died. But once you see that tail light and you hear all her contradictory statements, it's not rocket science, guys.
It was on probable cause out of the district court, okay? So the charges that you were arrested on initially were out of district court, out of Stoughton District. That's where the arraignment was. It was district level charges. Today, grand jury indicted you on these charges, which is second-degree murder, vehicular homicide, and leaving the scene of the death. Okay? So those are the charges that grand jury indicted you on. So now you're being charged and will be arraigned in Superior Court, Norfolk County Superior Court in Debra. Okay? So
bail doesn't apply anymore?
Typically, I'm not, so we don't set the bail. But typically, once murder comes into play, people don't get bail.
All right, so I'm just going to do a thought experiment here. If this were you, if you were falsely accused, falsely charged, you're out on bail, you're brought back in, right? And they say, we're making the charges even higher. Would this be your reaction? Just a thought experiment. Try to think about what your reaction would be. Would she be saying, oh, we're all in on the same joke, right? And start accusing people who you couldn't possibly have known or seen do this? According to to what you told Nightline, you looked at your phone, right as John O'Keefe is at the door of the Albert home. You're looking at your phone at the key time he's entering the door. Isn't that convenient? Because that makes it so that he could have gone out into the street and got hit by someone else's car, or he could have gone inside and something could have happened to him inside. See, she left all the possibilities open there, but she didn't think because she changed her story so many times. So tell me if you would react this way.
So it's not manslaughter anymore, is that the difference?
That's correct. It's a higher degree of taking a life. Okay, so that's the charges that you're being charged with now. And you were indicted by grand jury.
Okay, you're aware he was beaten up by Brian and Colin Albert. I mean, we're all in on the same joke, right? My taillight is cracked and John is pulverized.
Okay, you need to abide by the.
And would you use the word pulverized to describe the demise of someone you really loved, the brutal demise of someone you really, really loved? To me, it sounds like she's taking a victory lap. Sounds like someone who feels like it's some kind of, the image that I get is, I won, right? Her hand up in the air, I won. I pulverized him. I made him no longer. I don't know what her intent was. I don't know if she had intent, but I think she definitely had intent to hurt him. I don't know if she knew that it would do what it did. But there's also going to be, this is also the very bad news for Karen Read, witnesses who said, and she said she was driving around in a 2-mile radius that night before she went and got her friends to go looking for him. So people who saw her at the Albert's home, their hand on the wheel and John O'Keefe not in the car, and saw the way that she made a 3-point turn, unnecessary 3-point turn out of there. All very bad for Karen Read. There are not a lot of good facts in this case for Karen Read. The best thing she had going for her may have been Brian Higgins destroying his phone. And that looks like it's a total fantasy. And I'm talking to the Karen Reed supporters. First of all, I don't understand how you think it's okay to attack the victim's family. So when I was listening to Yellow Cottage Tales this morning, Kevin, he was saying he didn't like JLR investigating, yelling at Karen Reed. He felt it was bullying. And if it were Turtle Boy, it would be different. But Turtle Boy's getting his instructions from Karen Reed. they're one in the same. And she was asked that day. JLR Investigates asked her, "Are you going to apologize?" I think he asked, "And are you going to tell people not to do this? Like, are you going to basically admonish your supporters for doing this?" And she won't, because this is part of the defense plan. Scare everybody into silence, scare the witnesses into silence. If you notice, the witnesses aren't giving interviews. The O'Keefe family isn't giving interviews. Everybody who thinks she's guilty has been scared into silence, or a lot of them, not everybody.
Rights that were afforded to you, okay? So you can talk if you want. If you want to tell us what happened, that's fine. We'll listen, but you were going to give you your rights, okay? And I'm sure he's going to do it again. All right? If you want to talk to us, you want to give us a story, definitely. We'll take it.
I know you already know the story, so I don't need to.
I don't think we need the video. Much of it is just looking at their computer. So the video part will be out. You don't want it in, correct?
That's correct. We had asked for the audio only.
Yeah. Okay, so the audio only, but it needs some context. Clearly voluntary, clearly unsolicited. How do you want to work that out? Can it be that this occurred?
And she's telling the police that they already know the story. How can they already know the story if she's been wrongly accused? Then they would know the wrong story.
At the Milton State Police Barracks on a particular date? Because if you can't work it out, then I'll decide it.
We don't object that the statements were made at the Milton State Police Barracks as they were.
Audio only.
So the statements made to the police trooper when she knew that she could remain silent, that is going to be allowed audio only during the trial. Part of her media interviews that she gave to different outlets, that will be allowed. And then also statements overheard by John O'Keefe's niece and nephew about the relationship and possibly the deterioration of that relationship right before his death.
She was asked to leave that night. The night before. And she wouldn't. This is the night before this happened. So it's a little complicated because it happened, John O'Keefe's happened at midnight, but I'm talking about the day before they had an argument and John O'Keefe left her there in the house. That's what the nieces and nephews are going to testify to.
That will be allowed admitted in as well, and they're going to be allowed to sit in the gallery after their testimony, Ted.
Both members of both families there, John O'Keefe's family and Karen Reed's family there today for this pivotal hearing, along with Matt. And now it's going to be jockeying for seats, obviously, with this news that they're going to the smaller courtroom. Matt will be there. We know that. He'll have a front row seat. Matt, thank you. As always, Matt will be with us throughout the day here on Court TV as we...
So that's it, not super anything that I didn't already tell you guys, but gives you a sense of the judge's attitude towards the defense. Another judge would have lost it. They might have gotten admonished by another judge for being unprepared yet again. Last hearing, they had no argument for the third-party culprit defense. This time, they have no incomplete witness list with no names and addresses. So it's just, this is not an inexpensive defense. So it's going to be an interesting trial. And so what I'm saying is that this is more than about just Karen Read. This is about how trials are going to be done, how campaigns for the accused are going to be done going forward. If this is successful, it will be repeated. More victims' families will be harassed. More witnesses will be tampered with. They'll take the risk. So this has got to be put an end to it. The people that haven't spoken out, who have chased popularity and stayed silent, shame on you. And that's what I have for today. Please hit the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, share this episode. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, leave a 5-star review. And I'll be back Saturday, 6 p.m. Eastern. Have a great night, everybody.